underscore it yet again, because for you to understand that for us it is very painful and a bit strange. Unfortunately, regrettably, Russia, using Chinese influence on the region, using Chinese diplomats also, does everything to disrupt peace summit. Regrettably, it is unfortunate that such big, independent, powerful country as China is an instrument in hands of Putin.
This is my video update on this Sunday afternoon, June the 2nd. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with some election updates. We have in India, it looks like Modi's party will be winning the elections in India. We should find out the final results by June 4th, I believe the latest is when we should find out the final results of the elections in India, but it does look like Modi's party is set to win those elections. And we have elections in South Africa, where it does look like the ANC will have to form a coalition, as it has received less than 50% of the vote. So that is an update with the elections in South Africa. We will find out the final results for the elections in South Africa. I believe by the end of today, we should know exactly where the ANC stands, but it does look like they are well below 50%, and they will have to form a coalition. So that is some election updates. And let's talk about the peace march in Hungary. Finally, we have a big peace march that took place in Hungary, in Budapest. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people turned out onto the streets to march for peace and for no war with Russia. Finally, we got an anti-war rally in Europe, in the collective West. Orban spoke to the crowds as well, and he said that Hungary and Hungarian soldiers will not go to the front in Ukraine to fight the Russians, and that Europe should not be destroyed by being pushed into war with Russia. So that is a bit of positive news. I believe that is positive news, because this really is the first big anti-war march that we've had with regards to the conflict in Ukraine. I can't think of another very big anti-war march connected to the conflict in Ukraine. Nope, I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I don't think we've had something this big. Maybe in the United States. I think in DC we did have some events calling for peace in Ukraine and for a ceasefire and a negotiated settlement. That was like a year and a half ago. So before we get to some more news, I want to walk up that way, but you know what the problem is? You have all of the political parties. They've set up booths because of the European elections, and they're blasting music. So you have Syriza and PASOK and Mera 25. They all have their booths up there, and they're all blasting music. So maybe I'll go around. That's what I'll do. Probably hear some of the music right now. Let's now discuss the Shangri-La Dialogue Summit that is taking place in Singapore. And who showed up to this dialogue summit? Well, none other than the man in the green t-shirt. The Ukrainian citizen that is traveling the world wearing a green t-shirt. The former president of Ukraine and the disputed president of Ukraine. Can you call him that? I think you can call him that. Some people say he is the president of Ukraine. Other people say, well, he's illegit. Depends who you ask. Anyway, so this guy in a green t-shirt shows up to the Shangri-La Dialogue Summit. He meets with Lloyd Austin. And he speaks at the summit as well. And this guy in the green t-shirt, he's very upset with China now. He was upset with Biden and the Biden White House because Biden was not going to show up to the Switzerland Peace Formula Summit. So he was lashing out against the Biden White House just the other day, and in Singapore, he lashes out against China. So Elensky says in his speech at the Shangri-La Summit, he says that Russia and China, they're sabotaging his Switzerland Peace Summit. That is what he said, accusing China of helping Russia to sabotage the upcoming Switzerland Peace Summit. China is telling countries, well, China and Russia, they are telling countries do not attend the Switzerland Peace Summit. That is what Elensky is accusing China of. What did the Financial Times article say about Elensky, citing anonymous Ukrainian officials close to the legitimate/illegitimate president of Ukraine, however you want to categorize him? They said paranoia. Paranoia is what they said when talking about Elensky. That is what the Financial Times reported. Paranoia because Biden may not show up in Switzerland, and now paranoia because China is sabotaging his Switzerland Peace Summit. China's calling up countries saying, don't show up. Don't you dare show up to Switzerland. We must sabotage Elensky and his peace summit. Oh, boy. Zelensky's having a meltdown, man. He is having a meltdown. Look, the Switzerland Peace Summit is a big performance. That's what it is. It's a big performance. You see, the Switzerland Peace Summit, because Zelensky canceled elections and now his legitimacy is under question, that peace summit was important. Because if China showed up, that would add legitimacy to Zelensky claiming that he is still president. So it was very important. It is very important for as many countries to show up as possible, leaders of countries to show up, not representatives and stuff like that. He needs leaders to show up. So he's freaking out. He is freaking having a meltdown. Was Elensky this concerned about the conflict as he is concerned about the peace summit? I don't know. Seems like he's much more concerned about the peace summit than he ever was about the actual conflict or war. I don't know. Just an observation. Anyway. The military chief of China, he also spoke at the Shangri-La dialogue summit, and the defense chief of China said that the situation around Taiwan is not good because the collective West is pushing Taiwan to become the next Project Ukraine. And so the defense chief of China, he sent out another warning to the collective West. Don't push. Don't push. Don't push us. Don't push Taiwan. We don't want Taiwan to become another Ukraine. That was basically his message at the Shangri-La event. Elensky was also in Sweden, actually. I forgot to report about his trip to Sweden. He met with Prime Minister Christoforou, and then he made his way to meet with the King of Sweden. And here's a photo of Elensky meeting with the King and Queen of Sweden. He decided to go with a black shirt. He ditched the green and wore a black t-shirt. Interesting choice of shoes from Elensky as he meets the King and Queen of Sweden. But hey, you know, gotta keep the act going. Gotta keep the act going, huh? So I posted on Twitter X today, some thoughts about Elensky's tenure as president of Ukraine. And my post was a reflection on how we got to this situation with Zelenskyy, how the world got to this situation with Zelenskyy. It started out as a scheme, a Kolomoisky scheme to run Ukraine from behind the curtains, right? You create a TV show called Servant of the People, and Zelenskyy is the lead actor in this sitcom, plays a high school teacher who becomes president of Ukraine in this sitcom. And then Servant of the People, the sitcom, becomes a political party called Servant of the People or Servant for the People. Some translations have it Servant of the Nation. Anyway, this sitcom uses the same name and becomes a political party of which Elenskyy is elected president on a peace platform, by the way, on a platform based on peace. Elenskyy becomes president. He beats out Poroshenko, the Chocolate King, and he decides to cancel the elections in March 2024, citing martial law. And now Elenskyy is the unelected leader of Ukraine. From sitcom TV actor playing a president to becoming the president of Ukraine, to now being the unelected leader of Ukraine, pretending to be the leader of Ukraine, some may say, who knows? Oh boy. What a terrible idea the whole servant of the people thing was, huh? Of course, they didn't realize it back then. Kolomoisky probably didn't realize it back then in 2016. But what a terrible idea, what a terrible scheme this whole thing turned out to be, huh? And Kolomoisky, who was the mastermind behind all of this, put in prison. I think he still is in jail. I'm not sure what his situation is. I know he fled to Switzerland and then he returned back to Ukraine. He's had a lot of his assets frozen by Elenskyy, the person who he placed as the lead actor in the sitcom. What a crazy story. Anyway, I got a little bit sidetracked there. So while he was in Sweden, Elensky signed security agreements with Sweden, Norway, and Iceland. Historic security agreements, according to Kiev Post. Bilateral security agreements, according to the Kiev Post. So he's signing all kinds of security agreements, right? All these countries are just signing these agreements with Zelensky. You know why? Because they also know if everything goes bust. Look at all of these pigeons. Wow. If everything goes bust, then all of these bilateral security agreements, they could just be tossed in the bin, right? They can just be tossed. They know that. The leader of Sweden knows that. The leader of Norway knows that. The leader of Iceland knows that. The US, the UK, the Netherlands, they all know this. Sign the agreement, whatever. Who cares what it really says? Just sign it. If everything goes belly up, legally, this is a real simple solution. He wasn't really the president of Ukraine. They can say that. Even the collective West can come out and say he wasn't really the president of Ukraine, so this agreement is null and void. But they signed the agreement because they have to they have to keep Elensky believing that they're invested in Project Ukraine, invested in him and Project Ukraine. Because Zelensky's, he's having a meltdown, man. He is having a meltdown. He's feeling very, very worried, very emotional, very insecure. And so they have to give him some sort of security, even if it is imagined. Anyway, that was Zelensky in Sweden, and it doesn't matter how many security agreements he signs, because Ukraine's big problem that cannot get solved is the fact that it is running out of soldiers. So yesterday in my video, I talked about how the collective West media doesn't really report on the fact that Ukraine is running out of soldiers. They try to keep that a bit hush-hush. But yesterday afternoon, we did get a mainstream media publication, Bloomberg, come out with an article with the title, "Ukraine is running short of people. Drain on manpower emerges as main concern among businesses. Conscription exodus shrinks workforce by more than a quarter." So Bloomberg yesterday decided to run with an article highlighting the manpower shortage, not only in the military, but also in everyday life. Companies can't find men to employ, to put in important positions like operating the metro, for example. I read an article which said that the metro, the underground, has problems because there's no people to run the trains. And the Washington Post, they put out an article with the title, "Basic Training in Ukraine is Barely Covering the Basics, Commanders Say." And so the Washington Post, they are highlighting how the training is so quick, so condensed, that they're getting soldiers who, according to the Washington Post, they can barely handle weapons, handle a gun, right? These aren't professional trained soldiers. And the best soldiers, like the professional soldiers, they've either been annihilated or they're already on the front lines. And so all of these new recruits, according to commanders interviewed by the Washington Post, they even said that these guys, if they get sent to the front lines, just going to get annihilated by the Russian military, a professional Russian military. Just a terrible situation for Ukraine and for the Ukraine military. So an interesting couple of articles from yesterday, one from Bloomberg and one from the Washington Post, starting to highlight the soldier problem that Ukraine faces. No bilateral agreements are going to solve this problem. The only thing that can solve this problem is boots on the ground. That's it. NATO, Collective West boots on the ground. That is it. We're not talking 1,000 or 2,000 NATO soldiers or mercenaries or whatever. They're going to need tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, to plug up the holes. So let's talk about another conference that is taking place, which is not getting much attention, and that is the Bilderberg conference. That's right, Bilderberg is taking place in Madrid, and I read that Bilderberg is trying to change its rep from being a shadowy meeting of globalists. It's trying to become more like Davos. A shadowy meeting of globalists? I don't know. That's what The Guardian was reporting. It's saying that Bilderberg is trying to be more open, more public, and it's trying to become more like Davos. I don't know. Shadowy meeting of globalists. Bilderberg is trying to become like Davos. Well, I guess Davos is a more public shadowy meeting of globalists. I don't know. They're concerned about all of the conspiracy theorists, The Guardian was reporting, with regard to the Bilderberg event. I think it wraps up today. It started on May 30th and it wraps up today, June 2nd, taking place in Madrid. War, AI, and more war. The 2024 Bilderberg agenda is sure to set off alarm bells. The Executive Annual Summit has tried to counter its arcane reputation, but its guest list still reads like a conspiracist's who's who of who rules the world. Yeah, the guest list is, yep, it is a conspiracist, theorists, who's who of who rules the world, that's for sure. I believe Stoltenberg is there. A whole bunch of AI and big tech CEOs, they're all there. Big pharma CEOs, they're at Bilderberg. I think Rutte was there, and Kaya Kallas is there. Kaya Kallas is at Bilderberg. And Kaya Kallas, she was interviewed by the BBC, and she was asked about Ukraine and Plan B. BBC security correspondent Frank Gardner asked Kallas on Saturday if Estonia has a Plan B in case Ukraine loses this war. And what was Kallas's response? We have no Plan B for a Russian victory, because then we would stop focusing on Plan A, she said. Sounds very smart. No plan. Who needs a Plan B? If we have a Plan B, then we're going to stop focusing on Plan A, which is not working out too well. I guess it's the philosophy of, you cross the bridge, and then the bridge behind you gets burned down. So you're forced to continue forward. I guess that's the philosophy, the strategy being employed by the Collective West. Keep in mind that none of this is Kaya Kallas's idea. This is not her original thinking. She shows up at the cocktail parties in Brussels. She listens to Blinken speaking with Stoltenberg or Biden. Biden speaking, now forget that. She listens to Sullivan speaking with Cameron, and Kallas is kind of on the sidelines, just listening to Cameron and Sullivan talk, and she has her drink in hand, and she's listening to what they're saying, and then she goes out and repeats what they're saying. No Plan B. He said no Plan B. Sullivan said there is no Plan B. Okay, I can use that the next time the media asks me a question. That's where she gets all of these talking points. She's not really privy to the real thinking that's going on, the real strategy, if there is any of what's going on. She just gets the sound bites from the parties and the dinners. Kaja Kallas said some more interesting things. She said, "We must not give in to pessimism. Victory in Ukraine is not just about territory. If Ukraine joins NATO, even without part of its territory, it would be a victory, as it would be under NATO protection." Sounds to me like she's talking about a government in exile. That's what it sounds like. No need for pessimism, she says, but that's a pretty pessimistic statement. Maybe she heard Cameron and Sullivan talking about a government in exile and placing that government in exile under NATO protection. Possible. Or a west of Ukraine, some sort of west of Ukraine being placed under NATO protection, which actually goes against the NATO charter, right? You can't put a country into NATO that is in conflict or has been carved up or whatever. You can't do that. But in the case of Ukraine, I imagine they'll make various exceptions, which further erode at NATO's legitimacy. Anyway, that was Kallas' statement. Let's do some more stories, and we'll get to a clown world. A couple of clown worlds. Biden tweeted yesterday, "No one is above the law." That was Biden's tweet. Well, Professor Biden didn't put out that tweet. His social media team put out that tweet. No one is above the law. Told you guys. You're going to hear that for the next 6 months, every single day. No one is above the law. No one is above the law. Convict Trump, felon Trump, felon Trump. That's what you're going to hear every day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day for the next 6 months. No one is above the law. No one is above the law. Except for my son. He's above the law. I think Steven Seagal should get royalties for the "No one is above the law," because he put out an awesome movie called Above the Law, right? Isn't that the movie that he put out? Yeah. I believe his best, I think it was his best movie. Yeah, Above the Law in 1988. Steven Seagal, Pam Grier. So much music. I'm going to have to walk that way. Doing circles now just so I can get up that way. So yeah, Above the Law. That was a Seagal 1988 movie. Now everyone's using that phrase, above the law. No one is above the law. Seagal needs some royalties paid to him. Let's see where this takes me. So did you guys hear about this whole George Clooney and his wife going after journalists thing? Pretty crazy stuff, huh? So they have this foundation, Clooney and his wife. This foundation is now going to try and issue arrest warrants with the cooperation of the ICC. Khan! Khan! The wrath of Khan. And they're trying to arrest journalists, Russian journalists in Europe. And they want to keep the warrants secret so that when the Russian journalists or pro-Russian journalists connected to the Kremlin or something like that, but when these journalists travel, they're not going to know that there's an arrest warrant for them in various ICC compliant EU member states. Pretty sinister stuff, huh? You see, they went after Assange, and now they're going after more journalists, and this is coming from Clooney, up in the air, George Clooney. And the ICC, getting the ICC to go in on this with you, not good for the ICC. You see, it makes the ICC look more clownish than it already is, than it already has become. Anyway, that's the Clooney story. Just thought I would mention it. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But he's trying. He's trying to pull an Assange on Russian journalists, because they're reporting the Russian narrative. That's why he's doing this. I don't know if I mentioned that. He's doing this because they're reporting the Russian narrative. Or he's being told to do this, which is more likely. He's being ordered to do this via his foundation. So let's talk about, it's summertime. So it's balloon season. And there are reports that North Korea sent a whole bunch of balloons into South Korea, 600 balloons carrying garbage, trash, poop. I don't know if this is true. I really have no idea if this is true. That's what's being reported. I don't know how I feel about this if it's true. On the one hand, it's pretty nasty. On the other hand, if this is true, I don't know. It's kind of funny, I guess. I don't know. I just don't know. Oh, they're sending balloons filled with trash into South Korea. My God. That's disgusting, wrong, but also epic. All at once. Oh, boy. Anyway, once again, I don't know if this is a true story. But it is all over the news. I think I actually saw some photos. I don't know if the photos can be believed either. All right, that's one clown world out of the way. The Sun, the UK Sun, they are reporting that Putin is ready to conquer some territory, to conquer some land. Vlad's conquest, the Sun is reporting. Putin is eyeing up 3 targets for invasion after Ukraine before blitzing NATO. So before he goes into Europe and takes over NATO, he's going to take over some other territories. The first target, according to the Sun, will be Moldova. I think they're referencing the president of Latvia. This is a Twitter X post from Nexta, which says, according to the president of Latvia, the first target of conquest would be Moldova, the Caucasus, and Central Asia. And then a broad mustache man style land grab could include countries like Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia, as well as Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. Wow. So they have a map here, and they have the little soldiers with arrows showing Putin going into Moldova, going into Georgia and Armenia, and conquering Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. Wow. Wow. Do people in Kazakhstan know this? Hey, everybody watching from Kazakhstan, are you aware of Vlad's plan? his conquest plan. Man, Georgia, Armenia, better watch out. Better watch out. How did the Sun get these battle plans? How does the Sun do it? They must have a mole, a spy. Kevin Costner, No Way Out, in the Kremlin. They must have a very high up mole in the Kremlin to smuggle out these maps and these battle plans. Man, the Sun. Amazing journalism from the UK Sun. Absolutely amazing. So I guess it's kind of good news for Europe and for NATO when you think about it, because Russia's going to have its hands full conquering all of Eurasia, because that's what the Sun is basically saying. He's going to conquer all of Eurasia and all of the Caucasus. You got to imagine that's going to take him, I don't know, it's going to take Russia, what, a couple days, a couple weeks, no, a couple months to conquer all of this territory? It's a lot of land. It is a lot of land. And so I guess that gives, NATO more time to prepare, right? Oh, man. All right, let's do one more, and how we doing with time here? Yeah, it's very relaxed video today, guys. A very relaxed Sunday video as I make my way over to Omonia Square in Athens. Pretty much as central downtown as you can get. So the final clown world is coming from Bild. Translated. Title from Bild, which says, Mega rumor about top job for Baerbock. Wow. The rumor mill in Brussels is bubbling. Suddenly, a new name is floating around in the ring to succeed Ursula von der Leyen, 65, CDU, as president of the EU Commission. So, the rumor is that Baerbock could be taking over for Ursula. Wow. That would be something, huh? On the one hand, Baerbock's going to really crush Europe. If you think Ursula did a bad job, look out.
You are a YouTuber?
Yes.
Your name?
Alex. Christoforou. Christoforou. Yep. Okay. There you go. Gonna like, gonna subscribe, huh? So, Baerbock is going to really demolish Europe. Whew, it's going to be really bad if she becomes the Commission Presidente. So that's the one side of things. On the other hand, I'm going to have some pretty amazing clown world material, I have to admit. If you thought my clown worlds with Ursula are good, just imagine Baerbock as Commission President. We're going to go from tatters to Annalena Math and 360. Oh, boy. Just rumors from Bild. Just rumors. But we know that Macron wants Ursula out. The name that was floating around was Draghi. But who knows? I can see Baerbock as Commission President. I can definitely see it as horrific as it sounds, as it can be. I can definitely see it. The more incompetent you are, the higher up you go. Those are the rules of the collective West political class. All right. Enough mumbling. I'm losing my train of thought. Oh boy, just thinking about Baerbock as Commission President, it horrifies me, but also means my channel will be able to live on for another 5 years. I will have Clown World material for another 5 years. I'm sure whoever becomes commission president, even if it's Draghi, I'll have good Clown World material. This I am sure of. Anyway, everybody, a very relaxed video on this Sunday. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. And go to the Duran shop. Use the code GetReady15. Pick up some Duran merch. Take care. Boris. Wonder if Boris Johnson lives there. Boris, you up there? You up there, Boris? You hiding out in Athens, Greece?